Okay, so I'll tell you two stories about this Rabbi Zusha Vilimovsky. And the first story is that he used to go into these different. Chabad is not in politics. Chabad officially has not got a political party, and we don't have any representatives, and we don't have any. What do they call it? What do they call it? I know bodies that try to influence. I can't. Sometimes words jump from my mind. We haven't got any groups that try to influence politics and things like that. We're not involved in politics. And the Rebbe explained the reason why is because in Hebrew the word for political parties are called miflagot, and miflaga means a peleg, separation. Separation is that the job of Chabad is not to make a separation, to not to be a separate group, but to unite everyone, to unite all, to bring out the Judaism, the common factor in all of these Jews, namely the fact that they're Jews, and increase their Judaism. Okay, so we don't have a political party, but on the other hand, we need money, and all the religious parties that got into the government, the reason they did is because they need money. That's why, because they need money. They have to have money in order to survive. And the government has a lot of money, and the people and the argument in Israel is the Torah really beneficial to the non-Torah person? Is it beneficial to the world? Does learning Torah really have a benefit to the world, or is it just your personal, selfish, the obsession with going to heaven? And that's why you're sitting and learning Torah all the time, and you could care less about the world or anybody else, just learning Torah. Well, I'm sure there are people like that, but the fact of the matter is that it's rare, and the Torah really does bring blessing to the world when it's learned, and that's why the religious parties go justify the fact that they can go into the government, because they're using this money to benefit not just themselves but everybody, all of Israel. Good. But Chabad is not in politics. So where do they get the money from? So a lot is from donors and things like that. But a lot also comes from the government, because the government has allocations for religious matters and also for communal matters. Huh? And after all, it is a Jewish state, and this is, increasing Jewish identity. And it's however it is. So Chabad sometimes does influence on a personal way, to go in and say, listen, we need money for this institution, and we're part of this with it. But generally speaking, it's not easy, because especially it used to be. And now it's a little bit different. The country is becoming more, how do you say, attuned to Judaism. But it didn't used to be that way. It used to be that it was very difficult, and the people that were in the government, they were like very anti-Torah and commandments and Judaism and religion, and so they were anti. Even though in their personal lives, they a lot of times were very warm to Judaism, and that's what Chabad appealed to, the truth that they were. Okay, but to get money from these people for our institutions that we needed was very difficult. And he used to get money. He used to go into these different places, and he would get funding for our institutions. He wasn't a clever person. He wasn't, a slick talker, and he really knew, how to convince. He was genuine. He was a genuine person. He was brave. So once somebody asked him, how is it that you get along with everyone? That everybody, even the people that don't like Chabad, there were people that didn't like Chabad, and they would agree with him. They would give money. They would help him. Right? He said, how could it be that you? He said, very simple. He said, if there's a war inside, then there's peace outside. In other words, if I fight with myself inside and say that maybe what I'm thinking is not right, maybe what I'm feeling is not right, maybe it could be wrong. If there's a war inside, then there's peace outside. Then there's peace outside. If I don't insist what I say, I have to be right, I'm going to win, my thing. Then if there's peace, if there's a war inside all the time, I'm warring with myself, then there's peace outside. Then people can understand what I say, and they're sympathetic to what I'm saying. It's a very big, deep lesson, I think. Very deep lesson. If there's a war inside, in other words, if you're always battling with yourself and trying to improve yourself and not blaming other people for anything and always trying to justify others, then the fact is there is real truth. You can connect to that truth, and other people also want to, they'll see it in your eyes that that's what you're after. Okay, that's story number one. Story number two about Reb Zusia Vilimovsky is that he was a partisan, like I said, and he fought against the Germans. And once he and his friend Moshe, they did something. I don't know what they did. They blew up something. Anyway, the Germans caught them. They were running after them. They were running after them they had a good, nice head start. But nevertheless, the Germans, there were planes over that. They saw them. They ran through this open field, and they saw them, and they were strafing the field for them, and the others were with dogs running after them. So they ran into a swamp. They went into a swamp, and they went deep into the swamp, and it was getting close to nighttime. And in the swamp, the Germans, first of all, the dogs couldn't smell them because it was all water. It was all water. And also the Germans couldn't see them because there was brush all over the place. It was overgrowth. And so they couldn't be seen. So the Germans and the planes from above couldn't see them also because of this overgrowth. So it was the perfect place for them to hide in the swamp. The problem was it was a swamp, and the water was like up to their chest. And they didn't go in, after a good meal or something like that. And they probably hadn't slept for a long time before they went in. How much sleep could you get in those conditions? And so they were quiet in the swamp, and the Germans were firing and shooting and shooting and firing. And they kept a couple of, I guess, Germans that were, watched the field to find. Okay, so they couldn't go out. They couldn't go out of the swamp. They had to stay in the swamp. After a couple of hours, so Moshe says to Reb Zusia, we're talking about Zusia Vilimovsky, Reb Moshe says to Zusia, I can't do it anymore. Falling asleep. If you fell asleep, you're there, you fell asleep, so your head goes into the water, and they were already weak in this. And if you wake up, you make a sound, oh, like that. So here where you are, they'll fight in that direction. Whatever it is, he said, Zusia, I can't keep my head above the water anymore. I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm tired. I'm hungry. I'm finished. I can't. So what did Zusia say? He didn't say to him, hold on, we're going to get out of here. Don't keep thinking positively. It'll be okay. He didn't say that. What did he say? He said, Moshe, we're going to get out of here, and we're going to kill them all. We're going to destroy all of those Germans. We're going to blow them all up. We're going to massacre every single one of them. Well, he wasn't talking about just surviving. He was talking about winning. Winning. Me and you, we're going to, and it worked. And it worked. He didn't think just about, we're going to survive. We're going to get out of this bad. He was thinking about, let's get out of here. We're going to do good. We're just hibernating for a little while. We're going to get out of, we're going to just blow them all up. And it worked. And it worked. And it ended up that they were there for, 10 hours, whatever, 15 hours. And finally they got out, and they survived. This fellow Moshe, I understand, they passed away since then. But so it shows that if you think in just terms of surviving, so maybe you'll survive, maybe not, but the chances are much greater of your surviving if you think way beyond that. And that's where the Tanya starts off. You have to be a tzaddik. And if you try to be a tzaddik, which is a person who feels God all the time, then maybe you can succeed in being a Benoni at least some of the time. Have a good day with Mashiach now. Thank you very much. See you all tomorrow at 8:15.